Maintenance has a way of exposing the truth about your operation. It doesn't care if you're on vacation or if it's a holiday. The office can close. Maintenance doesn't. Residents are still submitting requests. Vendors are ghosting you. Owners still need to sign off on approvals, and systems can break. And that's where people ask the wrong question about AI. They ask, what can AI do? But the better question is, if AI owns the work order, what does the property manager own? Look, the goal isn't just to let AI do more of the work. It's also figuring out what the best operators are freed up to do once it does. Welcome to the Property Management Frame Breakers podcast. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez, and I am here to introduce you to the folks in the property management space that have broken the frame of what you may believe was possible. This podcast is presented by Vendoroo. It is your all-in-one AI solution for resolving your maintenance needs. Let's go. David puts the math around the question. A human can only move so many work orders in a day. But even when AI starts carrying the work forward, the PM is not removed from the system. Their attention just has to move. David explains where it moves next.
We know that a human can do so many tasks a day. If these tasks have been reduced by 85%, what am I asking them to look at? 41% of all work orders have a single break in the workflow. Across the board. Some of those require an actual human to evaluate, how do I get this back on path? The AI alerts, says I have a low confidence level of how to get this back on. I've tried X, Y, and Z. This workflow is broken. We need to get back on, and that human steps in.
That's the line. The human doesn't vanish. The human stops watching everything and starts watching what matters when it matters. But to understand that shift, you have to understand the difference between AI that answers and AI that actually owns a job. You know, like there's two kinds of AI. Most of us, when we think of AI, we think of ChatGPT, right? That's a type of AI called generative AI. I describe generative AI as a genie. You rub the lamp, you get a wish. It's magical. It's really cool, right? Agentic AI is essentially a new form of AI that's been made possible by generative AI against new categories. It's how you link this like generative AI workflows to like make decisions and challenge you and do all these different things. You give it a job and it's able to like continue trying to do this in a way that's much more like a person would try to do this job. Like these things built correctly have a certain skill set. So they're able to like perform things. They also have a certain judgment. So they're able to not do certain things if they're not sure that, you know, like this is how you want it done. So how you string these things together, how you train AI with a new form of like there's the data that we've always had, but then there's kind of like how you structure the AI and train it in a way that uses the data to do a job. We're starting to get that really, really right? Like, and we're only on like day one, and it really starts to behave like that teammate, right? Like it really starts to go from being a tool to being like a resource that has judgment that actually helps you and prevents you from doing certain things. And it isn't just kind of like up to you to either do the homework or like make sure that you're supervising at all times. It works as like a mirror and like a way to kind of like self-examine so that you can continue learning. That word judgment matters because AI doesn't magically wake up understanding maintenance. It learns judgment from the work, from the edge cases, from the humans who have already handled the owner rules, vendor issues, stalled work orders, and resident pressure. That's why the human in the loop is not just a backup plan. It's how the system gets better.
Have you seen companies where they've maybe, I don't even know if they've gotten rid of their maintenance coordinator, like their human one, or maybe they've promoted their maintenance coordinator to something different. I guess you've also kind of talked a little bit about like processes, like should you use that kind of AI before your processes are totally built out or not?
We had to start off with basically a remote team maintenance department, right? That was using a brand new AI that we had been training and doing it that way, right? And the product was really just like, yeah, no, we're going to coordinate maintenance for you, but it's really mostly a human that we've trained that is using this tool that we've created, knowing that as the tool continues to get better and better, Eventually it becomes a human that is being informed by the tool. And eventually that AI itself becomes the combination with just like a certain amount of oversight in the background as well. Right. So we had to kind of like own the outcome in order to be able to like build something that could really take work off of your plate. And so early on, it's like, yeah, cool, man. I feel like I just hired like a super VA. And that's how it felt. Right. And then slowly but surely, it's really become this thing where at some point now that AI is being directly used by the property manager, and we have people that, like you said, right, like they've gone from being maintenance coordinators to being AI agent managers that are managing maintenance, right? And I get texts regularly from people saying like, dude, Vendoroo automated 98% of my maintenance this week. This is what I did with my job. Right? And it's no longer like putting out fires and stuff like that.
This is where the operator has to change too, because if AI is going to own more of the work, the PM has to stop treating it like something to babysit and start treating it like something to lead.
That's when we start moving to tenant sentiment, vendor performance, human interactions, calling people in real time.
Like you mentioned, we're control freaks, right? I know when I had less doors, somebody had submitted a maintenance request in their portal and it popped in my email, and we all live on our phones. I'd see it and I want to jump in there no matter what time of day. And it really had to like mentally change my mindset to let it do its job. The whole idea is to offload the heavy lift from you and the stress and let it do what it's supposed to.
Yes.
And you kind of have to force yourself.
It will take
right?
you 30 days to break your addiction. It's super clear. The person who gives 2x the brain info data to its RU versus the person who doesn't achieves results that the other person can't even fathom that you're achieving. Dumping 2x the amount of knowledge and information and thumbs up and telling you what I want to do. They are achieving automation and things that the other person is saying, I'm not sure why I'm getting the value out of here. And I can look at their interaction. And what they are doing is interrupting and bypassing where the other person is educating and leading.
This is where coaching gets specific, because you're not just telling AI what to do. You're teaching it what you care about, your standards, your sensitivities, your trusted vendors, your line for when something needs your attention. That's where the PM's judgment starts becoming part of the system.
Remember, this is not a system, this is a driver, okay? You tell your operator, if this work order comes in on this criteria, I have a sensitivity about this. These are my parameters for this, hold them accountable. If they are not held accountable to that, I need you to alert me because I need to make a decision on that. If you don't get alerted, what does that mean? Your standard was executed. Now you can say, these are the 4 vendors that I trust, okay? I have a different set of parameters for people that I trust versus the set of parameters for people that I don't trust. And I have a bill of rights with my vendors. And I say to the vendors that I trust, you are on my trust path.
This is what happens when the system has the standard. The small stuff stops becoming noise. The routine issues can move. The obvious fixes can happen. And the PM does not have to get pulled back in just because a work order exists. That's when capacity actually starts to show up.
The other thing that I was like, we were so blown away by was the little things that in the past, we may have sent someone out there for no reason when there's some of the troubleshooting that is done through the text messages exchanges. Like, for example, a garbage disposal stopped working and the AI asks half the time the resident has no idea. They think they're talking to a real person. They have the tenant take a picture of the garbage disposal. And once it has that picture, it knows the vendor and exactly how to, maybe it's, at the bottom, there's this hex screw that you just have to turn a couple times and that will unclog it. Dude, I think there's been like 3 times that's all the issue was and it was fixed. And we just woke up in the morning and we're like, oh, dang, we had a maintenance issue and it was fixed already and we didn't even send someone out. That's awesome. Lots of little stuff like that. I'd say about 10% of all the calls we get have been handled through the AI without sending anyone over there. That's amazing, dude.
So that's how Root thinks, right?
There's the technological aspect of what you can teach it to do, automate it to do, and all these other things. And that, based on whoever is your service provider on this thing, has different levels of customization. But there's always going to be a human aspect of it. Right? This idea that like you set your standards, but whatever that standard is going to be like executed to a T, and there's like no BS about it.
41% of all work orders have a single break in the workflow across the board. And so what happens is Rue has been trained on over 2 million workflows to understand when a workflow breaks, how to put that back onto the path, okay? Some of those require an actual human to evaluate, how do I get this back on path? One of the things about Rue is we actually have a team of expert trained maintenance coordinators that the AI alerts, says, I have a low confidence level of how to get this back on. I've tried X, Y, and Z. This workflow is broken. We need to get back on, and that human steps in and will actually train it on what to do in that scenario to get it back onto workflow. We get about 14,000 AI requests a month for when a workflow breaks. And I know you guys know what I mean when a workflow breaks, right? It's just something weird happens, right?
Once the routine work gets handled, the work order stops being the center of the job. The people do.
So let's do the math real quick, okay? I'm just a math guys because I think we're all operators and we understand this part. So right now, the average operator is at 82% touchless work orders, okay? So if you have 100 work orders, let's just say you have 100 open work orders, that means that you're going to have 12 touch points, and that cycle is of a life cycle of a work order is about 4 to 7 days. So in that 4 to 7 days, your maintenance coordinator will have 12 decisions that they need to make. The average maintenance coordinator is capable of making 65 intelligent decisions a day. What are you going to do now with all those other touch points? That's when we start moving to tenant sentiment, vendor performance, human interactions, calling people in real time. Their skill set moved from task management to human engagement.
This is where the whole thing lands. When AI owns more of the motion, humans don't become less important. They become responsible for the trust around the work.
In a relationship business like property management that has such a long duration, I think the jobs inside of property management are going to be greatly turned into relationship building, experience making. It's going to look much more hospitality. If we want to talk about asset management, right? Like what does your financial advisor do for a living? They don't sit there trading stocks. They take you to lunch.
Right.
and they host luncheons and they go, it's going to be it's going to look much more like that. While the machines are kind of like doing and the analyzing and the coordinating in the background, you'll need people that like know how to network and know how to build a great vendor network that'll never go old, right? Like you're going to need people doing the things with their hands on sites. It's really going to be like the stuff that you need to do to take care of the property hands on, and then the things that you need to do to make people feel like they can trust you. And other ways of like building credibility and deep relationships with folks. It's going to be even more of a relationship business, which I think is cool.
So that's the answer. If AI owns the work order, the work left for humans gets clearer. The standards, the exceptions, the relationships. The moments where trust can't be automated. AI carries the motion. The best operators shape the judgment behind it. That's the new line. And once you understand that line, AI stops feeling like something you have to either fight or blindly trust. It becomes what it should have been the whole time. A system that knows what to carry and knows when the operator still needs to lead.